Hello and good evening. I am Deanne Battle, and this is the Composite. We are in season 5, and this is episode 2, and I am 9 minutes late. I just, one of the websites I wanted to use, sorry, my little situation is kind of funky here. I just took down a ponytail. All right, so a website that I was trying to upload to get ready, it wasn't working. And then I was just like, oh, I could just use a different browser. I'm like somehow very comfortable with Chrome for some reason, but yeah, it's uploaded now. So here's the thing. I've been doing these disjointed sort of episodes and kind of fell out of the format that I was usually using. So I want to go back to that this evening. So we'll see how long this episode will be, but this will be a longer one. There is a lot of shit to talk about. All right, so welcome. If this is your first time here, I am a writer and an English teacher by trade, and I talk shit on the internet. This is my show. Welcome. So yeah. Now, usually, well, let's say 60 to 70% of the time, I end with a poem because I'm a writer. It feels meditative to bring in words, to bring in poetry. But I want to start there just as a grounding element. Okay. And so the first poem that I'm going to read here is the poem of the day from the Poetry Foundation. And this poem is called The City with Elephants by, I'm about to butcher this person's name, Indran Amirthanayagam. Indran Amirnathagayam. I will listen to it phonetically after I'm done here to try to get that right. I think the other poem has words I'm going to butcher as well, so this is going to be fun. Now, the reason I don't rehearse the poems, okay, the connection kind of went out for a second. All right, so we'll see how my internet is tonight. But because there's just been kind of this random synergy with the topics that I want to discuss and the poems, and I like finding that organically. So I've just, not to skew my mental perspective or to force any connection, I just go to the poem of the day and we just see what's there. And usually it connects somehow, so that's been cool. So we'll see how this works. So again, The City with Elephants. The elephants of reckoning are bunches of scruff, men and women picking up thrown out antennae from the rubbish bins of the city to fix on their tubular bells and horn about by oil can fires in the freezing midnight of the old New Year. We ride by their music every hour, in cabs, on trains, hearing the pit-pat of our grown wise pulse, shut in, shut out, from the animals of the dry season, the losers and boozers. We must not admit our eyes into the courtyard, the whimsy of chance, and our other excuses, dollars in pocket, to write beautiful songs is all I ask. God, to do right with friends and love a woman and live to 80, have people listen to the story of my trip to America. The elephants reckoning are beaten and hungry and walk their solitary horrors out every sunrise, slurping coffee bought with change, while in some houses freedom-bound lovers embrace late and read Tagore about the people working underneath the falling of empires. Wow. And then a note they have here is, today is the annual elephant roundup at Surin in Thailand. Annually, The elephant roundup has included, among other celebrations, hundreds of elephants in a parade that ends in a breakfast buffet for the elephants with counters full of fruits and vegetables. So honoring, that animal. In terms of meaning here, it says, so the poem again is called The City with Elephants. The idea of, an elephant never forgets, and the majesty of an elephant, with that memory. So, if you think of an elephant as a repository of history, in this urban landscape that the writer has created here, I would want to do some excavation around that. Like if I was teaching it, we would talk about, well, what does an elephant represent as a spirit animal? And then how that might, tie in with the other themes here. Cool. So that was our first poem. Now, the second poem here, all right, is by Alexander Posey. I can say that name. But I can't say the title of the poem. All right, got a little too happy there. All right, so the title of the poem is To Wahila and Hotule and Hotul. So Wahila and Hotul or Enotule. And then it's in parenthesis underneath, it says to the south wind. Okay. So this is the poem To Wahila Enhotule or Enotul. And it says, O when hast thou a sigh, robbed from her lips divine, upon this sunbright day, a token or a sign? O take me when... Okay, the connection halted there, so I'll start this stanza over. O take me, wind, into thy confidence, and tell me, whispering soft and low, the secrets of the dell. O teach me what it is the meadow flowers say, as to and fro they nod through all the golden day. O hear, wind of the south, and whispering softer yet, unfold the story of the lone pine tree's regret. O waft me echoes sweet that haunt the meadow's glen, the scent of new mown, like mow, new mown hay, and songs of harvestmen, the coolness of the sea and forest dark and deep, the soft reed notes of Pan, and the bleat of straying sheep. Oh, make me wind to know the language of the bee, the burden of the wild bird's rapturous melody, the password of the leaves upon the cottonwood, and let me join them in their mystic brotherhood. Oh, it was very sing-songy. I'm going to just click the link because there's a link to the reading. I just want to hear how it sounds quickly.
Wahila and Hotul by Alexander Posey.
Wahila and Hotul.
To the south wind. O wind, hast thou a sigh robbed from her lips divine, upon this sun-bright day, a token or a sign? Oh, take me, wind, into thy confidence, and tell me, whispering soft and low, the secrets of the dell.
Okay, I was rushing it a bit. I didn't, the commas and the M dashes, I wasn't, giving it enough pause with it. It's a lot, it's still sing-songy, but it's a little, I'd say a couple of beats slower here. Okay. All right, cool. So we're talking about elephants. We're talking about wind. We're talking about what in these two poems, like if we want to lift big picture elements of it, what does the land, what does the earth, and just generally, not like earth meaning soil. What does the earth, what do the creatures remember? What do they retain? What are they trying to tell us? All right, so that's, what I'm taking from it. So yeah, those were our poems. Okay, so I stopped for a second just because, the connection here. So cool and calm. Let me just hold on a second. Let me just make sure I'm connected to the Wi-Fi. Okay, I am connected to the Wi-Fi, but if it pauses again, what I think I'll do is start using data just to, make sure that I don't lose the broadcast, because that kind of sucks when that happens. All right. Now, our first official topic is there's a shifting social media landscape going on, and I have an article related to that. So, in terms of social media, and if you hear like the lapping in the background, that was my dog drinking water. We're in a different location now here. You generally can hear her, but probably more so now because she's in the same room. All right. So I use on a regular basis Instagram, obviously, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And, I'm signed up for other social media accounts, but that's, those are ones that I check on a either daily or weekly basis. And so a few people did these, grand announcements that they were leaving Twitter. And so, I've seen, or X, it's Twitter. Anyway, so that this happens, I would say every 6 months or so, people are like, well, I'm leaving Twitter or whatever. It's like, okay, arrivederci. There's so much performativity that happens on social media. It's like certain things, it's like if you're going to boycott something, boycott it. If you're going to leave a platform, leave the platform. But everybody has to make an announcement about everything. And so, like, for me, the announcements that I make are like, hey, I'm, looking to reconnect with people. Let me know if I can call you. Or, hey, has anybody seen such and such? Or does anyone have a recommendation for something? Like, those are the type of announcements that I make. Now, some people might say, oh, well, that's not any better. But, so I'm not, but I'm not like, hark, what's this here? Just, oh, this is unacceptable. I'm leaving this platform, Now, I did leave Facebook for a couple of years, and I think that was in, I want to say, like 2016 or something like that. Or maybe was it 2014? Somewhere in there, I left Facebook for a couple of years. And I made an announcement like, just, hey, I'm deactivating for now. But it wasn't like a love letter to a deactivation. So that's a long preface, to say that, yeah, a lot of, there's been this, second or third wave of an exodus from X since Elon Musk has, made his purchase of the platform. And so, I saw the first wave, and then people are like, oh, if you're going to leave, go here. And then the second wave, people are like, oh, if you're going to leave, go to Mastodon, which I have Mastodon set up. I'll address that in a second. And then now this third wave, and everybody's like, oh, let's go to Blue Sky. Okay, it just paused again from my internet connection. So hold on. I'm going to switch over to data here. Okay, so it's still saying that the connection is poor. So it might just be because it's windy outside. So, sorry for the technical glitches here. But again, I just want to make sure that I don't, lose the feed. All right. So, people are very quick because, they don't agree with Elon Musk's politics. Excuse me. I don't either, but are very quick to exit the platform. But I just, as a writer, literary magazines, cultural magazines. People post links to their articles and they're writing there. To be frank, the most pertinent and most accurate updates that I got about COVID during lockdown were from Twitter. So it's just kind of like, is it full of freaking trolls and misinformation, disinformation? Most certainly, but then I have not seen a viable alternative in terms of what's been presented. So it's just kind of like, where else are you going to go? All right, so I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But anywho, there's an article here from fortune.com, and the title is "People are fleeing Elon Musk's X for Threads and Blue Sky. Welcome to the era of social media fragmentation." And this was an article from November 14th with a picture of Elon Musk, or Elno, as people call him. I like that, Elno. He looks like a freaking toolbox right here. And he is a toolbox, but what are you going to do? Oh, get out of here. Okay, so I had opened the article, and then I guess when it loaded, it locked me out. There's a paywall on it. But you can quote unquote listen to it. Let me see here. Is that behind the paywall too? Oh hell. Everybody wants you to sign up for a subscription, y'all. Like it. Let's pause here from the topic. There's such lean times. Like I already have too many subscriptions, and a lot of it is not even because, I want to be subscribed to something, but it's attached to something that I need. And so, thank goodness that I'm an educator and I can, log in to stuff, a lot of times from, a school library, or, I try to really keep my public library cards active, even though, all of the times that I've moved, I try to, make sure that, if I'm in a new location, I definitely want to make sure I have a public library card, because other than that, you're shut out of information. I can't pay for the New York Times, the Boston Globe, the LA Times, excuse me, Bloomberg, Fortune, when I for most of those platforms, I maybe want a half dozen articles from them for the year, but you gotta pay a monthly subscription. I have to pay Apple to have, more memory access. So by the end of the year, I've given them an additional $60, even though their phones alone are over at this point. Well, I kind of need to get a new phone at this point because it's cracked, but that's another story. Your phones cost $1,500. And then on top of that, I've got to pay a subscription for the memory. That should be rolled into the $1,500. I'm trying to delete things from, my Google Drive because that's getting filled up and they want to charge me a monthly subscription for memory. Streaming services, monthly subscriptions that seem to go up every 2 or 3 months. So now I'm going to probably have to deactivate like Hulu or HBO Max or Netflix, But, I kept those active because I was just like, well, damn, I barely leave the house because I can't really afford to go anywhere unless it's free. So, I can at least read, listen to music and then stream to keep myself occupied, just in my downtime, when I'm not working or commuting or, it's just the model of extraction has always been in existence, but the rate of extraction, it's exhausting. It's soul crushing. And so now I can't even read this article on fortune.com because it's another paywall. Everything has a paywall. I'm so done with this, guys. Like, I'm over it. Let me see if I can find another article here and get back to the topic. But it's just, it's too much. It's too much. Like how at a certain point, you're trying to squeeze water out of a rock. I ain't got it. And I'm not the only one. Many people are really collapsing under the soul-crushing weight of this extraction economy. And it's just too much. All right, let's see the NBC News. Now I would, when we're thinking about how to evaluate the veracity of information, I would trust Fortune.com, frankly, over NBC News, because at the end of the day, Fortune, they just care about the money part of it, right? So they're going to report that part accurately. NBC News is dicey, right? Anybody that was on that whole weapons of mass destruction train when it came to the Iraq war, you get the side eye. So that includes the New York Times and, I think the Atlantic as well, like a bunch of, print outlets. And, but all of that being said, notice how you're being funneled in particular ways. So if you're someone who's in a position like me where you just can't afford to have 1 million subscriptions to everything, and you would like accurate information, but unlike me, you're not an educator, well, where are you supposed to get accurate news? We just had an election where people, rightly so, feel lied to because they trusted these outlets, whether it's on television or whether it's, on the radio or whether it's a print outlet. They trusted what these folks were saying about polls, and the polls made things look like, frankly, that they were closer than what they ended up being. Okay. So, but if that's the only place where you can get free news and it's inaccurate, what are you really supposed to do with that? So with that being said, I'm return to the topic at hand, right, which is the shifting social media landscape. And, this, I would consider it a third wave of an exodus from Twitter. Okay. Now, the title of this article, and I'll put links to both if you're somebody who, you can afford and to get behind the paywall of Fortune.com. Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. I'm tired. Or you can, like I said, afford it. Or if, you're in a situation where you can get the article for free. Like I said, I'll include both links. So here it says, X sees largest user exodus since Elon Musk takeover. And then the subtitle is, X users are weighing the decision to keep their followings or to build them back up on alternative platforms after the election, right? So a lot of this is a response to Elon Musk's outsized participation as a donor, to the Trump campaign during the election season. All right. And so this is from November 13th. And it says, on the day after the election, November 6th, X experienced its largest user exodus since Elon Musk bought the platform in 2022. And now users are flooding to alternative text-based social media apps like Blue Sky and Instagram Threads. Those numbers appear to be climbing as users and brands like The Guardian and Don Lemon continue to announce their departures from the platform. NBC News spoke to 6 people who have joined or committed to using Threads and Blue Sky in place of X after the election. So sorry, pardon me. Because of Musk. Each of them cited growing issues on X, including bots, partisan advertisements and harassment, which they all felt reached a tipping point when Donald Trump was elected president last week with Musk's support. Musk has since joined Trump on calls and in meetings to weigh in on his transition to president. All right, so, the implication in the first few paragraphs here, right, is that X as a platform serves as, state propaganda, state media, essentially, right? Because if Musk is a part of the Trump administration, at the same time he receives several massively lucrative government contracts, and he is controlling, a global water cooler that so many of us, sip from, it's a problem. I get it. It's definitely a problem, and it's a growing problem. Now, I wonder if this article is going to address the new issue. No, this is not addressing the new issue, because the new issue, right, the problem that I saw as of yesterday is, I believe as of November 15th, X has modified its user policy, which I was, okay, here we go. Sorry, I just had to keep scrolling. So this paragraph says, on Friday, X will adopt a new terms of service policy that for the first time explicitly says all users agree to let their post be used to train artificial intelligence, like the company's generative AI service Grok. Currently, X users can go through the site's settings and opt out. Anyone using the site agrees that their content can be used for, quote, training of our machine learning and artificial intelligence models, whether generative or another type. Sorry. Excuse me. End quote. The new agreement says. That change may inspire some to want to delete all of their posts or potentially fully delete their accounts. While several free services to automatically delete all of an account's posts exists, one reviewed by NBC News either doesn't guarantee against adverse effects like potentially suspending the account or requiring some technical work. Some companies like Tweet Delete and Circle Boom offer automatic tweet deletion services for paid subscribers. And then I'm skipping ahead here. Quote, if you delete your account, someone else can use your handle and buy a blue check and pretend to be you potentially. See, that's a freaking problem, right? So I feel like you're better off deactivating, because at least then your name is in the system as a placeholder. Yes, I am in obscurity right now. However, I still aspire to be a published writer and scholar at some point before I die. And if X is still in existence, I do not want some D-bag posting as Deanne Battle. I want to be the D-bag that posts as Deanne Battle. All right? So this is a problem. Okay, I'll stop there. This is actually a decent article from NBC News, and then it has a graph that compares Blue Sky and Threads and their usage. So yeah, roughly here there is an uptick. Threads is like hovering upwards of 800,000, and then it's Blue Sky, has shot up to 1.2 million. Again, depending on the veracity of this information here. So these are two growing platforms. But it had me thinking, right? Because then I saw a post on Lipstick Alley, which they've been surprisingly like some of the forums in terms of like political stuff and social issues. Some of the posts, like if you wade through it, people have some good points. And I hadn't been on there for years and years and years. One, because the website is trash. It crashes like every 2 seconds. And then two, like, I just am not into like celebrity gossip anymore. I'm just too busy trying to survive. So it's just like, them posting about Beyonce or Kim Kardashian or whoever. I'm just kind of like, it just doesn't hold the same appeal, which it did. I was like, I want to say 10 to 15 years ago, like, anonymous posts and stuff like that. That stuff would crack me up, and it's just doesn't hold the sway anymore. But anyway, like some of the stuff that they've been posting circa election news has been helpful in terms of like, because they'll post, links to articles that I want to read. But I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But the things that they've, been saying, I think, about the evolution here of these social media platforms. Some folks, again, have had good points, but I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, so the reason I brought it up is there was this whole thread of like, oh, well, anyone with good sense has left Twitter ages ago and da-da-da-da as soon as Elon Musk bought it. But it's just kind of like, again, very performative, because I would argue anyone who straight up really had good sense is not on social media, period. Let's not kid ourselves, right? Because all of these platforms, right, they're sitting on the same foundation. And the foundation is surveillance, data harvesting, and then I forgot what it's called, but when you're, looking at people, taking the data, right, and then you're parsing it out for marketing purposes. So then, basically like, oh, Deanne, reads these sorts of articles. Deanne follows these sorts of people. Then this is blah. This is what we know. This is how we know what to regurgitate to her. So she'll then go and spend her money. But I don't have any money. So I'm kind of like marketing demographic resistant right now, if you will. But yeah, so that all of these sites, let's not kid ourselves, whether it's Elon or some other asshole, these sites, irrespective of the chief executive officer, all do the same thing. Because at the end of the day, free is not free, right? You sign up for these free sites, they are not free. They are taking things from you. I would argue that what they're taking from you in terms of, what was that movie called? Hold on, let me look it up. It was a documentary that I saw while I was a nanny on Martha's Vineyard for a summer in 2019. So right before the pandemic began. What was that movie called? It's a Netflix doc. This is one of the first things to go for me. Yeah, my back is a little stiff in middle age, and I get tired, hence the yawning a little bit earlier. But I can't remember jack shit. I've never really been able to remember jack shit, but it's getting worse. But it basically called Facebook like military weapons grade like data in terms of like what it's harvesting about you, right? This is gonna kill me. Sorry, I have to look this up and remember it. And it was a super popular documentary, so you've probably already remembered the title. While I'm sitting here like an idiot looking it up. Okay, was it this one, The Great Hack? That might be it. Yeah. The Great Hack. I'll post a link to that too. Yep, and it came out in 2019, so that is it. Yeah, it's the Facebook Cambridge Analytica data scandal. All right. So the reason I'm bringing it up, folks, is for people to go into different forums like, oh, people should have left Twitter years ago. Oh, anyone with any sense is not on Twitter. Bah, bah, bah. And they're usually women in my age group or older. But you chicks still have a fucking Facebook page. After The Great Hack came out in 2019 and they told you that Facebook is harvesting weapons grade data on your ass. So what that told me at that point is that I'm taking a risk every time I log into any social media. All right. Now, that doesn't mean that Elon Musk, again, he's a nefarious person. Like, let's just put it out there. He's a nefarious character, and that doesn't mean that his, that all of them are equivalent. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that if we're playing in this marketplace of social media, it's at our own risk anyway. So let's not moralize as to, oh, as long as I'm not on Twitter, everything's okay. Because that's what the bargains that people kind of make in their head. And it's just, it's not logical. Okay, so The Great Hack. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like a lot of people have seen it. But if you haven't seen it, watch it. Because I enjoyed it so much when I saw it. It was like the Martha's Vineyard Independent Film Festival, something like that, or maybe it was just the Martha's Vineyard, if I can speak, film festival. I sat through the documentary and I sat through the whole Q&A. I was just like, what am I seeing right now? I actually might rewatch it after because I have papers to grade. I might rewatch it tomorrow. But yeah, it lets you know the social media it's not safe, right? It's free, but it's not free. It's, they know where you are at all times. They're forever, in your shit, in your business, anything that you search for, right? And then now all of these sites have AI functions attached to them. So you're not really solving one problem because you don't have to be, in the Elon multiverse if you get off of X, but you're not really solving the social media problem, right? And so then that gets us to, okay, so if you delete Twitter, right, well, where are you going to go? Listen, I did this with Mastodon. I was like, yeah, let's get off of Twitter. Let's sign up for Mastodon. And then I was like, okay, well, in a couple of weeks, then I can get off of Twitter. And Mastodon was a hot mess. I still don't even know how to navigate that shit. So actually, I'm going to be deleting that. But no, I'm not going to Blue Sky, because it's like, well, what is the interface on Blue Sky? Is Blue Sky easy to navigate for the neurospicy? Because if it's not, then there's no need for me to be there. Like, I just need tech to be simple. As a teacher, we have to use these learning management systems, and they're all onerous. And they're very difficult to navigate for someone like me. Like, I have to watch multiple videos. I have to ask multiple colleagues. I have to meet with IT on Tuesday because we went from Blackboard to Brightspace. And Brightspace is slightly better than Blackboard because Blackboard was the worst. But I'm front loading for next semester because that's how long it's going to take me to learn how to use these freaking LMS systems. And it just slows me down for hours and hours. I can't find the papers, and then I try to grade them, and then sometimes the stuff gets deleted or the student can't see it. It's awful. That's my professional life. Like, why do I want to be bothered with Blue Sky in my personal life? I don't even have a book out yet, so there's just no motivation to do it. I don't have a TikTok account because although some, a sliver of TikTok is informative, I feel like TikTok overall makes me stupid just because everything's a reaction video or a dance video. The squirrel nature of TikTok, it speaks to the lowest vibrational impulses that I have. So I'm not saying I'm not low vibrational. I actually am. But it speaks to that. And I don't want to cultivate that, if that makes sense. So I am not signing up for TikTok. All right. That's separately. So the alternatives, Blue Sky, don't want to see it, won't be on it. Sorry. Threads. I have Threads because, I have Instagram. So it was just like, hey, click here for Threads. Threads is not user-friendly. It is simple, but what I don't like is that it's hard to, so if someone posts, it's hard to navigate into the responses. And then by the time I click, and then I click other things by accident, and it's just not a homey environment. And that's what I need. I need a social media text alternative that is like your Nana's coupon purse. Not her actual purse, because that's a nightmare, but her coupon purse will be quite organized. That's what I need. I need a social media website or app. See, I'm calling it a website. I can't do this shit, y'all. I can't do this shit. I can't follow you to Blue Sky. I can't follow you to Threads. No, I'm not going. It's either Twitter or die. Sorry. But anyway, it has to be an app, not a website, Deanne, an app that is like a coupon purse. Because when I go to Facebook and shit, I am like your grandma. I'm just scrolling. I'm scrolling and responding. I'm not, or I'm liking, scrolling, responding. Liking, scrolling, responding, scrolling, liking, responding, in that order. And all of this other stuff, these Mastodon, what was that? Oh my gosh. The second time I went on Mastodon, I almost had a panic attack. I'm like, how do you find anything here? It's like petri dishes, and they're connected petri dishes, but I didn't know the petri dish that I was supposed to be in. So my molds died because I didn't find the right petri dish on Mastodon. So I am deleting that immediately because even talking about it pisses me off. So it just got me the whole conversation. It's like, okay, so there's a third wave of exodus from Twitter. You know, I know a lot of advertisers have exited from Twitter since Elno purchased it. But I'm just like, you know, the year is wrapping up, and usually in around the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Kwanzaa, you know, before the new year, I try to let go of things, you know. My tendency is to hoard ideas, spaces. I currently, between Safari and Chrome, I think I have about 700 or 800 tabs open right now. I closed a few today. I closed 6 tabs. But I need to just close out. And, you know, it's usually like, I'll see an article, or someone will send me an article, and I'll start reading it, and then I get distracted, or, you know, or my phone dies, or something happens and I don't finish it, and then I'm just like, oh, and I leave it open, but then I get 5 more articles. And so it's just, all of this being said, I don't need more social media. I don't need other spaces to be in, y'all. Like, this is it. I want to get it to the point where it's, you know, Facebook, and then even Facebook is not really that useful. But anyway, but, you know, more people are there. My family is there. You know, friends from high school and college are there. You know, so between family and then high school and college friends, that's really the only reason why I'm there. But I don't need LinkedIn, really. LinkedIn doesn't work. I've gotten no jobs. And then the only people that contact me on LinkedIn at this point is LinkedIn. Like, hey, do you want to sign up for LinkedIn Premium? And I'm like, LinkedIn Great Value or LinkedIn Non-Premium does not work. Why would I then pay for LinkedIn Premium? Just a thought. So yeah, I need to get off that shit. I need to get rid of Mastodon. I still have Periscope on my phone. I've used Periscope maybe 3 times. There, Monique, the show she does with her husband, Sydney, I watched that for like 2 weeks, and they were on Periscope, and that was cool, but I don't think they're there anymore. And I don't know who else is on Periscope, because I think Monique and maybe 2 other people are the only people that I follow there. So I need to delete Periscope. I need to delete Marco Polo. It was a cool concept, but no one is using it. Marco Polo was like, you do these brief messages to your friend, but it's like a video message. And then it's like, Marco Polo. So you send them one and they send you one back. So it was a cool interface, very simple, a cool concept that never caught on. So I need to delete that. I only signed up for Snapchat because during a PD, when I was teaching at private schools, they were trying to describe Snapchat and I couldn't visualize it. And if I can't visualize something, then the notes that you're giving me make 0 sense. But they were just trying to, warn us of how students were using Snapchat. And then I also had students doing racist shit on Snapchat. They were doing blackface on Snapchat. That's a different story. But so I was like, well, let me just see like how this works, like what it is. But I don't actually do anything on there, so I need to delete that. So I need to delete any dating app because it doesn't work. I'm still extremely single. It don't work. So what is that? So we've got, oh, and Clubhouse. I definitely need to delete that shit. So here's the thing. People want to talk about how negative Twitter/X is. Clubhouse is the most negative, trolly social media app ever. I don't think I've logged into it for like 2 years, because when I got it and finally was listening to conversations, I'm like, no one is saying anything positive in this space. And then they also call it Fed House, because I believe people started getting arrested because they were confessing to crimes in the discussion they were having on Clubhouse. So Clubhouse is the worst. So I definitely need to delete that shit. So let's see. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then Discord would make 8, because they've also updated their terms. And if you're someone who cares about and finds it gut-wrenching what's happening in the Middle East now, there's a whole list of terms that you can't even use on Discord. And I'm like, well, I only signed up for Discord because at the time, I was listening to Young Turks, and they were like, well, oh, we're on Discord. And then, I was watching that as a news program, but that's not even a viable news source anymore. That's a separate conversation. And then my MFA program signed up, and they did a thread on Discord, but nobody in my MFA program posts on Discord anymore. And then, like I said, Young Turks is not a credible news source anymore. I mean, I don't even know if they ever were, to be honest, but I felt they were. But that's neither here nor there. So then I need to get rid of Discord. Tumblr's fairly harmless, but it doesn't freaking work. Let's say I log into Tumblr once every 2 weeks, because some of the blog posts about writing or about the paranormal and some stuff, like some of the things that I follow, I'm like, oh, these are good blog posts, but you have to, log in a couple of times because the site doesn't load. It doesn't actually work well. So that would be 9. So, pardon me, my nose is itching. Excuse me. Okay, so y'all want to, excuse me. Okay. This is a booger-free zone. All right. So y'all want to get rid of Twitter. I just named 10 social media apps that I personally need to take accountability for and get rid of, to the one that people are focused on. All right. So, the reason I brought up, the Thanksgiving, December, is because at this point of the year, I'm usually less focused on, what I need to do in terms of I need to lose weight, but I do need to lose weight. But, and all of these other things, I'm usually focused on what can I reduce in terms of the attention economy, in terms of the burden on my mind and soul. What do I need to let go of? So I can tell you right now, I need to let go of all of that stuff. Okay. And it's not they're not adding anything, to my universe. And I'm not going to then get rid of that and then replace it with blue sky. It's just, I'm very doubtful because, listen, when Twitter was created, there were fewer social media options. So people were funneled into that space. There's no way Blue Sky is going to be able to replicate that. There's no way that Instagram Threads is going to be able to, replicate that. And I think that ultimately that's probably what this Fortune article was, right? Because it used the term social media fragmentation. There are just so many options. And, a lot of these sites now, they don't even really, are not really even curating the user experience. They're just kind of throwing this shit up there. And I think that, frankly, that feels like what happened with Mastodon, because it's just, again, for someone who, if you're anyone like me, you have, issues navigating technology, you have issues focusing, it gives you agita. I swear. It's just not usable. It's unnavigable. All right. But, this also brings me to second topic. I'm only on the second topic. Just thinking about what are the things in general that you want to do to close the books on 2024, because this hasn't been a great year overall. I mean, I'm glad to still be alive in relatively decent health, but it hasn't been great. These have been very turbulent, troubled, lean times. And so I'm thinking about, well, what do I need to, again, take accountability for in terms of clearing the palate. And so, the first thing, which is what I was talking about, is paring down or eliminating distractions, because I really, want to make, I've made some headway on my book, but I really want to make substantial headway to finishing my book next year. So, fewer memes, fewer text messages, less of everything. My environment needs to be more curated. I need to be more mindful of what I give energy to and who has access to me and my energy. And one great way to do that would be to delete these 9 or 10 social media apps. Even though I don't really spend a lot of time there, just getting rid of it altogether. The second thing would be, in terms of, wrapping up the year, really trying to take the reins of my financial landscape, which is a wasteland right now, but just really trying to rehabilitate my finances, pay the debts, pay the people that I owe, get a second job. All of that, needs to be in works now, ASAP. And I mean, I'm doing applications and stuff, but just solidifying my schedule. Am I going to be working 7 days a week? Like, what does that look like? What would that mean, in terms of doing this show? What would that mean in terms of my writing? What would that mean in terms of my just general health and well-being? And so, the financial element on it. And then the third thing is, either a focus on my health, simplifying and detoxifying my system, whether it's my nervous system, whether it's my immune system, things like that, or just physically organizing and decluttering. And so all of that stuff is in motion now, just so I can end the year and I think a calmer manner than I started it. So that's what I'm thinking about. So if you want to share, I'll mention that in the comments for this video. Thinking about, how you want to close the year, things that you might want to change. And I'm thinking less of things that you want to start, but I'm thinking more about things that you want to stop or things that you want to get rid of. There's a lot that's happening in our world and our society that's just unsustainable, and that burns our energy in detrimental and unproductive ways. And so I would just encourage you to, it doesn't have to be anything that I'm working on. Don't see me as an influence for that, but just thinking of the overall topic of things or people that you want to get rid of, or that you want to have things or people that should have a limited access to you and your life force, your positive energy. So that's just something to think about. Okay, so the third thing that I wanted to get into is, it is officially winter now. It is dark at 4:30 or 5 p.m. And so with that comes a certain amount of illness. And like I had mentioned when I was talking about Twitter, I got so many credible peer-reviewed articles on Twitter in regards to COVID. And what I'm seeing now is a lot of very alarming updates as it pertains to H5N1. And so I just wanted to look at an article for that quickly, and an article for Mpox. So listen, we know COVID is definitely not over. I have had about a half dozen students that I know of in my classes this semester that have come down with COVID, and they were sick for a week, 2 weeks at a time when they got sick. So people are still getting it. Now, I don't know those students, their vaccine status, like if they had ever been vaccinated or if they were up to date on their vaccinations, but I definitely know people are still getting sick. I definitely know for the second year in a row, when I've tried to go and get my vaccines updated, that the CVS, because I just, CVS is usually easy peasy for me. So anything that I need to do from a pharmaceutical standpoint, I usually just go with CVS. Walgreens, Dwayne Reed, Rite Aid, there's always some janky shit going down there. They don't have my prescription, or they told me the prescription was filled and I get there and it's not. Or the pricing is off, or they don't have the brand, or they don't have a vaccine. So I'm just kind of like, okay, let me just keep it simple. Go to CVS. Any of these places that I've moved to, I always register, with my insurance at the local CVS. But what I've noticed is for the last 2 years in a row, when I've gone to try to update my COVID vaccinations, that they didn't have it at the local CVS. But I'm in New York now, so that should be easier. But it's just like, come on, let's just make this easy. But another digression. I wanted to, bring an article to this space about H5N1, because the updates that I'm seeing about it, and I follow virologists and scientists on Twitter. Like, that's how I use it. I'm not really following any celebrities or anything like that. I want to follow historians. I want to follow economists. I want to follow activists, scientists to give me some information for what's going on. Because, if you just follow, legacy media, like, the Fox Newses of the world, the CNNs of the world, the MSNBCs of the world, they're not telling you the real deal in terms of what's going on. And I feel we are very much moving into an era where if you do not have accurate information, you might not survive. So it's just important to me to really follow people that kind of, at least to my ability, I have tried to educate myself. So to the best of my ability, I can suss out, okay, this person is giving me accurate, researched, peer-reviewed information. And I get access to that on Twitter. So it's like, if I leave, I don't have to deal with the trolls and I don't have to look at Elno. But then I'm also kind of cutting off my nose to spite my face. So I'm just, again, I'm not If blue sky works out, that's amazing, but I will not be there. So this article is from the LA Times, and it says H5N1 bird flu infects 5 more humans in California and 1 in Oregon. All right. So the bullet points here, I'll go through the bullet points and then touch on a couple of paragraphs, but this episode is, I had a feeling, I suspected it would run long. So, you don't want to just hear me reading the entire world. So I'll post the link to this in the comments for the article as well. So the bullet points say, 5 new human cases of H5N1 bird flu have been detected in California. And then it says Oregon's first known human case has been confirmed. Authorities say all cases were transmitted from animals to humans. There is no evidence of human-to-human transmission. But every time when you look, let's back up. Not every time. I'm not going to be hyperbolic. I feel as if when I was reading about COVID, when I was listening to, news programs, podcasts about COVID, when I was looking at graphs about COVID, it seems to me as if when they said that exact sentence, there is no evidence of human-to-human transmission, then that already means there is evidence of human-to-human transmission. All right. Now, this last bullet point says about 75% of wastewater sites monitored in California show evidence of H5. All right. So, trying to see how many paragraphs. Oh, paragraphs are short here. So I'll read a few. As H5N1 bird flu spreads among California dairy herds and southward migrating birds, health officials announced Friday that 6 more human cases of infection, 5 in California and 1 in Oregon, the state's first. A 7th presumptive California case is awaiting confirmation from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. All of the reported cases have been described as mild, and each person is believed to have contracted the illness from infected livestock or poultry. In California, the infection occurred among dairy workers. In Oregon, the patient was a poultry worker, right? But if that's among the dairy workers and the poultry workers, does that mean that we need to stop eating chicken and stop drinking milk? Now, I don't drink whole milk, because of, lactose issues, and I'm asthmatic. But, I still eat things that have, milk or dairy in it. And this is something that I had mentioned, I think, actually, I don't know if it was this past summer or last summer of 2023. If you go back into the archives, I've been, reading articles about this or monitoring this issue for quite some time. And, it's definitely, it was a massive concern. So I'm just saying that, like, I'm not new to thinking about, okay, what's the next pandemic on the horizon? Okay, so it's talking about the counties in LA. LA is one of the counties, but the counties in California that have detected the virus. But one of the things that was alarming to me was a scientist that I'm following on Twitter, which I can't open it right now because I have Instagram open on my phone. But she said something to the effect that in studies they've estimated that if this H5N1, once it hits human to human contact, in terms of contracting the virus, it's deadly. Like, it's a 58% mortality rate. And so I'm like, okay, am I reading that wrong? I hope there's something that I'm misunderstanding about this, because a 58% mortality rate with the lack of health infrastructure that we have in this country. Now, the Biden administration was slightly better than the Trump administration, but Trump's coming back. And that dude was telling you to inject bleach into your veins. That man doesn't believe in public health systems. And he's hiring a, what do you call it? What is it? Okay, let me look up the phrase. A rogues gallery, is that the term? He's hiring a bunch of scallywags, all right? So it's going to be a bunch of scallywags up in there. And the scallywags are not going to help us from a public health standpoint at all. So if you have a virus, again, if my memory does not fail me, the woman said H5N1 has a 58% mortality rate if you ever hit human to human, contractability. It's wintertime. And because of the climate emergency, our weather is not consistent. And if you're anything like me, if it is 70 degrees one day and 40 degrees the next day, that's how you get sick. This is really, really bad, y'all. Like, this is really bad. All right, so that was the article from the LA Times about H5N1. Now this is an article from the Associated Press about Mpox. All right, and the title is U.S. health officials report first case of a new form of Mpox in a traveler. And I will post this in the comments as well. Health officials said Saturday they have confirmed the first U.S. case of a new form of Mpox that was first seen in eastern Congo. The person had traveled to eastern Africa and was treated in Northern California upon return. According to the California Department of Public Health, symptoms are improving and the risk to the public is low. The individual was isolated at home, and health workers are reaching out to close contacts as a precaution, the state health department said. Mpox is a rare disease caused by infection with a virus that's in the same family as the one that causes smallpox. It is endemic in parts of Africa where people have been infected through bites from rodents or small animals. Milder symptoms, can include fever, chills, and body aches. In more serious cases, people can develop lesions on the face, hands, chest, and genitals. Earlier this year, scientists reported the emergence of a new form of Mpox in Africa that was spread through close contact, including through sex. It was widely transmitted in Eastern and Central Africa, but in cases that were identified in travelers outside of the continent, spread has been very limited, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. More than 3,100 confirmed cases have been reported just since last September. So on and so forth. I'm not going to keep reading. 2025 is going to be rough. All right. Because again, we are the current administration in the United States downplayed the effects of COVID, but the entering administration in 2025 basically does not believe in science, does not believe in medicine. Again, the former president, who will be our new president, told you to inject bleach into your veins to clear COVID out, or to see if you could shine a light inside your body to kill the virus. So, I believe there is a huge chunk of the US population that has suppressed immunity because of COVID or long COVID. So you have a population that has declining access to health care, has declining access to healthy food, has declining health because of our deteriorating emotional and mental health because of the way society is, and declining health because our living standards are declining and deteriorating. So now you want to throw two new potentially lethal viruses into that mix. This is a dumpster fire. This is devastatingly bad. This is going to be really bad. And I don't, want to catastrophize. I want to think ahead to what I can do to be useful and productive and somehow an agent of change, because we're going to need it. All right. And so my next topic that I want to connect to this, so this is our fourth topic, right? Thinking about what steps we can take politically. And I'm using politically in the most general sense. Like, I'm not talking about politically in terms of a Democrat or a Republican. I'm saying politically as a political movement, as in a movement of people to make political and cultural change. Because, what we've seen, and let me back up a step. As a Black American, right? So from my identity, from my standpoint, I've understood that the American project has limited political legitimacy from the jump, right? On stolen land with stolen labor. So the American project has always had deep-seated ethical corruption and deep-seated limits of legitimacy. So we'll just put that out there. But what we've seen in my adult lifetime, right? So at a federal level, and I've said this several times, the first federal election that I voted in, for president was Gore v. Bush, which was illegitimate. So I've seen that, that's just colored my whole perception, my whole adult life. And it's gotten worse since then. And I'll include, this last go round. And I've been thinking about out loud in this space and elsewhere, well, what can I do? Because just sitting around and complaining about it it's not going to save us. It's not going to improve things. Now, I have had more moments of despair than I'd like to admit, where I've really felt like throwing in the towel and giving up. Because the structural corrosion that we've seen of the American project, I've often felt like, well, it's just insurmountable. Like, what can I do about this? And so I've started going to different, political meetings and stuff, for different camps, more left-leaning stuff, because I just am not a conservative person overall. It just, I would say probably 99%, or if I'm being generous, let's say like 95% of the conservative ideology, like it just doesn't appeal to me. The foundations of what I know of it, the people that espouse it, and just a lot of the hatred that's attached to it. My tendency is not to look down on somebody. My tendency is not to hate someone. My tendency is to want to be helpful. And I just don't see that espoused by conservative talking heads. Now, if there are conservative political figures who do believe in helping, who don't believe in white supremacy, and who don't believe in hating marginalized groups, then I would love to learn who those people are. Feel free to put, links to their content or links to their philosophies or their books in the comments. But I haven't ever been exposed to that. Anyone that I am aware of as an adult who says they are conservative, they hate multiple groups of people, including me. So I don't lean that way. But like I said, I've been attending meetings primarily on Zoom for more left-leaning groups, more groups that are open to socialism and potentially communism and things like that. Now, I don't know much about that either. I'm very ignorant on those topics, but I'm trying to read more and I'm trying to learn. But what I'm seeing as someone who's been a lifelong independent who hasn't ever registered for a party is anything I do will probably, to be honest, have to be outside of the confines of electoral politics, because I went to like 2 meetings for the socialists, and no knock on them because I'm new to the space, but it felt like an Amway meeting. I'm like, this seems like a Ponzi scheme. It's just like, I literally just hopped on the call. And then one woman, I went and I signed up for a mailing list because I wanted to get more information. She sends me a text message and it's like the first line, everybody's asking me for money. The first thing I hop on the Zoom, people are asking me for money. It's just like, no. Do you need money to fund any type of activism and political enterprise? Yeah, you do. But if you haven't even explained what your philosophy is, what your principles are, and you're asking me hitting me up for cash before you do that, like, it's giving Joanne the Scammer vibes. I'm sorry. So it's just kind of like, again, I'm still trying to be open-minded, but what this tells me is that my utility will probably not be in an official political space. It's going to be creating community as a political act. It's going to be mutual aid as a political act, things like that, if that makes sense. And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not going to vote, because I do vote. I vote, and I've said this before as well, I vote at the federal, state, and local level. When I move, I'm waiting for, a voter registration to be finished right now, but attaching myself to a political party is I don't think that's going to work. And so, I just kind of wanted to generally report back on that. And I'll post a link for the mutual aid network, because I'm again learning more about that. There are mutual aid groups on Facebook, one of the platforms that people are still on, and I've recently been the beneficiary of mutual aid. The Poor People's Army, they actually helped me move all of my stuff into storage for free, and I'm so appreciative of that because, I had an opportunity to meet with them, in person and everything. And it's just like, okay, well, they don't know me. I don't know them. I don't know how this is going to work out. Is this going to be okay? It was okay. They're broke folks like me. And, they reached out to me. They were able to help me. And I am, very, I look forward to being able to pay that forward. So I'll link to their materials as well. I didn't ever, when I was younger, I didn't think there would be so much that I wouldn't know at this age, but there is. And the world is way bigger and way more treacherous and way more beautiful than I could have ever imagined. And, I'm just, peeling back. It just feels like I'm just peeling back the first layer of that. And I'm closer to 50 than I am to 30. My goodness, it's a lot. It's a lot, y'all. But I would encourage you to learn more about mutual aid, and not necessarily in the way that I'm doing it, but just in ways that you can link up with people at churches or synagogues or mosques or after school groups, YMCAs, like something, because we're going to need these nexuses. I don't know the plural of that. Let me look that up. That's going to bother me. Nexus, plural. Okay, the plural of the word nexus is nexuses or nexus. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we're really going to have to look to these, friendship groups, families, kin groups, schools, something. We're going to have to create these smaller nexuses and rely on each other because, again, the electoral process in this country is illegitimate. So I'm not going to get into, we need a recount for Trump's votes, because now when Trump said that he wanted a recount, it was bogus then, right? So it's not legitimate just because it's the other side now. Like, that's not how any of that works. Just because we are unhappy with the results doesn't mean that we delegitimize the process. I'm delegitimizing the process because the process to me is illegitimate, right? It's crazy how, like, when people have adopted the left and the right as such identity markers, they don't even see the cognitive dissonance. It's like when the other side was saying X or Y, you were like, oh, those people are crazy. But now you're saying it. It's out of control. But, again, really from at some sort of level. And I think now going into the holidays is like the perfect time to do it, to evaluate your networks and the connections that you have with people and link up with your tribe. I mean, that's a lot of what I've struggled with in my adult life, to be honest, is finding and cultivating in a healthy way a tribe, a consistent group of people where I can rely on them and they can rely on me. And that doesn't mean that I don't have individuals here and there in my family and my friend groups, but I don't have a clique. You know what I mean? I don't roll deep with people. I'm a loner. I'm usually by myself. And with the shadows that we are facing in the future, that's not going to work. And I've been resistant to that, because again, you get comfortable in a particular mode of being, in a mode of operation. And it's like, okay, well, I know that historically when I've tried to rely on certain groups, like that, I've been either rejected or I've been disappointed. And it's just kind of, you build up a callous against that. It's like, how can I insulate myself from this devastation? And it's just like, well, just rely on me. But that's not going to work. It's not going to work for me financially because I don't have the funds to be as independent as I would like. It's not working emotionally or mentally because I've been very isolated. That was one of the reasons why I started this show, to find connection. And so I'll post, like I said, I keep saying I'll post those links, but this is a really great time to just find your people and just, use that empathy and compassion to connect in with one another. Think about what skill set you have to offer a group. I've been thinking about that lately, what skill sets that I need from a group, because our government is barely functioning now, right now. Look at the response to the devastation of hurricanes and floods in the North Carolina. It was North Carolina, but the North Carolina area, right? Because I think it might have bled over into Tennessee as well. Really think about, who are the people that you can rely on, the people that can rely on you, because I can tell you at a federal level, we're not going to have the infrastructure. Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, they're talking about cutting 75% of government workers. Oh, because all government is inefficient, government doesn't work. Where are you going to get your ID? Where are you going to get your passport? Where are you going to get your child's birth certificate? Who's going to deliver your mail? Who's going to pick up your trash? Those are all government functions. And, again, some of it is state, some of it is local, some of it is federal. But when you approach it with the mentality that anyone that works for the government is lazy, inefficient, and doesn't contribute to society, that is a very, very dangerous ethos to approach your unelected position as a public servant, right? Because nobody elected Vivek and Elon to do shit. But, Trump wants them on his team. But they're approaching it with this, nefarious intent already. So we're only going to be able to rely on each other. We're not getting anything from those people. All right, so that's that's enough on that. I still have, I still have two more topics. So I'm still talking here. All right. So I wanted to close a loose end that a loose end that I had from last season. And I kept posting, these excerpts / articles from Ta-Nehisi Coates and Zadie Smith, because they were both concerned with this political moment as writers, thinking about the Middle East, thinking about the nature of protests, so on and so forth. And so I read through the Coates excerpt, and I read through, I would say, half of the Zadie Smith piece. So I've just been discombobulated and trying to get myself settled. So that's why I didn't, finish addressing those issues, because I really was hoping to set it up as like a discussion, but c'est la vie. But I didn't want the loose ends floating out there. So here's what I'll say. Okay. Both of the pieces that I, because I didn't read the whole Ta-Nehisi Coates book, it rambled. And the Smith article, it rambled. But I think that's partially because how do you find the nature to address the unaddressable, right? Because anytime you discuss Israel, Palestinians, Gaza, the West Bank, these are really third rail topics. And they both, as Black intellectual darlings, right, of the elite, they both have a lot to lose by addressing anything in relationship to this topic. So I give them a wide berth for the rambling nature of both of the pieces. I also ramble, so there's that. But when I first wanted to juxtapose these two pieces and look at them in tandem, it was because I felt the Coates piece was embraced, and then, the folks that I follow on social media were kind of bashing Zadie Smith in a way where I was like, oh, wait, I've never seen anyone respond to her like this. But now I kind of get it, right? So here's the thing. So although both pieces ramble, Zadie Smith, her article, literally and explicitly begins with the philosophical, right? And I think there's a danger of that in this social and political moment that we're living in right now, because with war continuing and more war on the horizon, and economic conditions and health conditions, so on and so forth, deteriorating, there's something about this moment that's very immediate, and starting with a philosophical principle feels precious, feels like mental masturbation. And so, as soon as I got into it, I said, okay, this is kind of why people are dragging her. And, all of that to be said, there is nothing really at risk for her in the piece. She talks about being in London and, going to a protest, and, I don't want to ruin it. I think you should really, if you have an interest, really read the piece. But then she talks about the people that she was with, and they said, okay, well, we want to do this action, and we're most likely going to get arrested. And she was just like, she started clutching her pearls and was like, oh no. And so here's the thing, like, she's being vulnerable and she's admitting that, oh, I got a little bit too much to lose over here, y'all, to, be going to jail and all of that jazz. But then, at the same point, it problematizes her role as an artist and her legitimacy as an artist, right? Because one of the things that I think, or at least I hope, good art does is shines a light on the beauty of humanity, but shines a light on where we need to be better. James Baldwin, right? As the premier intellectual that did that for us as an American society, in my opinion. And call forth, a way for us to be better. And so as an artist, right, when you say that I cared enough about this issue to speak up, to go into the streets. I believe it was about climate change. I'm sorry that I'm blanking on that issue now, but again, read the piece. I'll post the link again. But when you're like, oh, this part is a bridge too far, then yeah, there is a level of legitimacy that you lose, not for your previous work, but I think you lose a level of authority to speak about this moment that we're living in. And I had mentioned, I think in one or two previous episodes, that I was surprised that quite a few of the artists and intellectuals that I follow, they've been calling out Roxane Gay, like, hey, where are you on this issue? And I was like, whoa, because she's so universally respected, again, in these, liberal thought corridors. And yeah, I think that if you're known for calling out marginalization, subjugation, inequality, if you're quiet on this particular issue, I do think you lose a level of legitimacy. Not in the sense that, from my standpoint, that you need to think a particular way, but in the sense that people don't have a read on where you stand. Yeah, that's a problem. It is. Now, the Ta-Nehisi Coates piece, which, hold on a second, because I'm just forgetting everything. Okay, so the book is called The Message, right? So I read an excerpt of The Message, and he begins with history, right? So he's also, in a sense, beginning with a theoretical element here, but the difference from the Zadie Smith piece is he's beginning with his personal history as a Black person in the United States, and really using that as the seed that informs his actions and his thoughts when it comes to this issue, right? Whereas Zadie Smith, she's placing the philosophy kind of on a wall, and halfway through the piece, I wasn't 100% clear onto how it connected for her. Now, she might circle the square by the time I finished the piece, but it seemed like she was using the intellectual process, the critical thinking process, to distance herself from the issue, whereas Coates is using his historical exploration to bring the issue closer to him. I hope I'm making sense. So it's kind of like someone with his lineage and legacy is going to automatically have a certain lens on the Middle East continued turmoil. And, I'm underselling it. It's way more than turmoil, right? But I'm just kind of losing my words right now because I've been on for so long. But yeah, so it was a little clearer to me why one writer was responded to and embraced, and one writer was dragged because Coates is saying, listen, I traffic in language. Let me use language to express the urgency of this moment to you. Whereas Smith, it almost feels like, again, she's hiding behind the intellect and the language. So they're doing, even though the process of both pieces is actually quite similar, even at not at the sentence level. Structurally, I would say that the pieces have a lot in common, but they're both cleaving, right? One cleaving to and one cleaving away from. So that's that. All right. Now I finally got to the end of the freaking show. I think this is like probably the longest episode that I've done, or the longest episode that I've done in a very, very extended period here. But I wanted to do two things. One, put out a call for interviews. I tried to do that in season 4 and season 3, but I really, really would love to have the opportunity to do another interview. If you've watched multiple episodes of the show, or if you go back in the archives, which I definitely encourage you to do, I did an interview with my former MFA colleague, and hybrid writer and critical thinker, just human being extraordinaire, Jasmine McMullen, and we had a lovely conversation in this space, and I would really appreciate the opportunity to do that again. So who am I looking to interview? Artists, activists, teachers, scholars, really anyone engaged in the pursuit of knowledge, of truth, who really wants to talk about their work. And so I'll post looking for those opportunities again, but I really love the opportunity to interview someone pretty soon. I would be ready probably in 2 to 3 episodes from now, so in a couple of weeks, in the holiday season, to interview people. So if you know someone, let me know. All right, and then a couple of personal updates here. I was on a segment of the Drew Barrymore show last month, and I thought it never aired because they said that they would let me know when it aired, and no one ever got back to me. It actually did air. So that was a personal update. It was in relationship to dating, because it's just like the dance card has been quite empty for some time. So I was like, hey, it doesn't hurt to put myself out there. So it turned out well in terms of how people are responding to it. So I'll post a link to that so you can see what that is like. And then I'm interested in another, so I'm looking for interviews. And another thing that I'm looking for is, what are you consuming? What shows are you watching? Movies. What books are you reading? What poems are you reading? What music are you listening to? So just as earlier in the episode, I said that, at this time of the year, around the holidays, I'm looking to get rid of things. So, but if you can replace it with something positive, like what types of positive things are you replacing it with? There is a book that I want to get my hands on. And I'm a little frustrated because I haven't been able to get it from the library that I have access to now. I'm still have to wait for my library card because I just recently moved. But anywho, I went to a writing workshop with Mira Tassin, or I don't know if the P is silent, but it's Ptacin. And she wrote this nonfiction book called, I want to get the title right, The In-Betweens, The Spiritualists, Mediums, and Legends of Camp Etna. And Camp Etna apparently was a spiritual witch paranormal camp for women that met in Maine. And as she was talking about this book, I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? This is totally up my alley. So I have to get my hands on this book from a library because I am poor. So I haven't been able to get it from the library at the school where I teach. So I'm going to try to find it. I probably will most likely have to have my MFA program send it to me because I still have library privileges, which is, awesome. For the level of debt that I went into for that degree, I still have library privileges. So I will be reading in the next week or so, The In-Betweens by Mira Tassin. I got to get my hands on that book. And then in terms of watching, at the end of this month, there is a documentary called Yacht Rock coming out, and about Hall & Oates and Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins. And I'm like, I've got to check that out. But you know what? More than anything else, I've got to watch it because why are they calling that shit Yacht Rock? Because last time I checked, Hall & Oates and Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins, not as much, but a few of those other people, I was like, wait, that used to be called Blue-Eyed Soul. Why is it called Yacht Rock now? So the cultural appropriation of it all, but it's really good music too. So I'm going to be watching that at the end of this month. I will report back and let you know how it goes. And then in terms of consumption, briefly, the Jake Paul / Mike Tyson fight. And Mike got a check. He got a check. It wasn't a big win for Jake Paul. I mean, I don't know a ton about boxing, but I enjoy watching boxing. And Jake Paul's stats were garbage. All right, this man, Mike Tyson, is more than twice your age. You're landing 28% of your punches while he's landing 18%. That wasn't a big win. Now, I'm kind of on the fence in terms of whether Tyson was holding back or whether it was really just, feeling old. I tend to think, because I've seen about a half dozen clips of him training up until the fight. I feel like he was holding back. He could have laid Jake Paul out. All right, so I did consume that fight last night. That was about 4 or 5 hours I can't get back, man, because there were 3 fights before. Now, the women's bout, it was Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. That was a good fight. Serrano got robbed. She did a great job. If they do a rematch, if they do a third fight, I didn't see the first one they did, but if they do a third one, I would watch that one. That was the best fight of the evening. So for those of you that consume boxing as a sporting event, all right? So again, two asks, and I'll make this clear in the comments. Interview opportunities, and, let me know what you're consuming. I'm very into... That's my dog, if you hear the breathing. I'm very into pop culture. as well. Highbrow, middle brow, low brow, bring it. As much as I'm into current events. And so I would love it if we could have like, a little viewing club going. Dune Prophecy is coming out as a show. They have a really good cast. Although the remake of Dune, I still haven't watched the whole thing, either the first or second part. I was really bored. I missed the David Lynch version. I guess my age is showing. Anywho, I might check out the show though, because the cast is really some actors that I really enjoy. So if I watch that, I'll let you know how it goes. But I'm really interested in what people are consuming. I miss House of the Dragon. I had my little, tribe on Facebook going for that. And our comments were amazing. And now there's a little bit of a drought. So let's get something going. Again, we could have like a book club once a month, or I'm just thinking about ways, if I'm going to be on social media, that I can use it responsibly and use it to generate some positivity. We need some positivity. Okay, so I'm going to finally end here. And this has been season 5, episode 2 of the Composite. I'm still Deanne Battle. And then when are we going to go live again? Monday or Tuesday. And I'll advertise for that. All right. I'll post any links in the comments, and have a great night.